Tarantulos Brood.
S tier.
I believe
A
you.
tier.
I
Okay.
totally, I'm up there. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
It's Tarantulos Brood.
Tarantulos Brood. Tarantulos have it, right?
Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man!
Tarantulos Brood. I've been talking a lot about them recently, and I think to good effect. I just came back from an event where we went 4-0. We beat some of the biggest lists of the format. We beat Machine Gun Slan. We beat the new Iron Jaws with their anti-weight mechanics. We beat out my Wild Dice co-host Demetrios's Bloodbound. Kill missions with no damage. Treasure missions with no treasure carriers. They are fantastic into this format. Today, I'm going to be going over Tarantulos Brood. I'm going to be going over how to win with them. We're going to be looking at that event. We're going to be doing that event breakdown. So without further ado, let's get into Tarantulos Brood. Let's talk about what makes them cook. Hello everybody. Right, so this was originally only supposed to be one video, but it ended up being way too long, way too bulky, so I split it into two for you. Part 1 talks all about Tarantulos Brood, how I played them into the missions, and how to build them. Part 2 will be looking at the tournament itself. We're going to break down all of those lists. I got Demetrios, I got Charles on. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to put the link to the other half up here. So I hope you guys go check that out, and I hope you enjoy. To start off, I'm going to front load this with the actual list that I used. It is basically the Broodmaster. It is a pair of Doomweavers with tridents and nets, and then it is a whole bunch of spiders. Now, what did Tarantulos Brood have going for them? The spiders, they have a absolutely terrible profile. 4 attacks, that's pretty good. Strength 1 with 1-2. They got 6 wounds. They got toughness 1. They are the squishiest of squishiest chaff units, but they're 50 points and their movement 6, which is a real reason why we're going to be taking them. What else have they got? They have their reaction, defensive blades. Everyone can use this. If they get hit, your opponent rolls 1s or 2s, they take 2 damage back. So this is basically counter, but considering that Spider Swarms always have toughness 1, everything will be winning them on 3s, which means that you will always, on every single miss, reflect 2 damage back to whatever it is that hit you. And that is the main way that we're actually going to be doing damage with this warband. Now, they have a whole bunch of abilities here. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. Now, it turns out that Resurrect is good, big numbers are good, free activations are good. And what the Tarantulos Brood? They got Resurrect, they can put numbers on the field, and they can get free activations. The main way you're going to get your free activations is through the Scuttling Symbiosis double. Pick a Spider Swarm, it gets a free move or free attack action. Who has that? Your leader has that, and your Doomweavers. They all have that ability. That's why you're going to be putting 1 in each deployment group. Everyone basically has the opportunity to get extra attack actions and move actions out of their spiders. What else is really good in this format where you've got big smashy guys just running around the place? Nets. And they also have those. Your Doomweavers with nets have the Silken Strangled net double, which is basically a net on a 3+. Great. That's exactly what you want out of your warband, especially if you're playing a very big, low damage, gum up your opponent's disruption warband. Any additional control ability is really what you are looking for. We've got Skittering Ascent. It's exactly like the concept of One-Chi ability. Use a double, walk up things for free. That's perfect. It allows your Doomweavers and it allows your Lords to get out of the way if they need to. And what it's doing is it's allowing your spiders to basically ignore terrain. If there are objectives that they need to go and get, or if there are people they need to go tie up, you can use a double, go and get there real easy. The Envenom Projectile triple, that's only on their Broodkin. I haven't taken any Broodkin, so I'm not even looking at that. Broodkin are fine, they are 60 points, they're better than a spider, but what you cannot do to a Broodkin, which is the most important thing in the list, is use Creeping Summons. Creeping Summons is basically a resurrect. The only person that can use Creeping Summons is your Broodmaster, and he's allowed to bring back a spider on full health anywhere within 3 inches. The Tarantulos Brood also got a really big buff in the Brian Bone book, where they receive their battle trait, the Eightfold Allies. It's exactly like your Tarantulos Brood summon, except it's once per battle, doesn't require any dice for you to use, but the most important thing is that anyone can use the ability as if they had the hero rune mark. So what does this do? It effectively gives you a free triple once per game for a really high impact ability that you're going to use anyway. This is fantastic. The fact that you can use this off of your spiders and not just your hero means that you can do things like go 2 for 1 on an objective extremely easily. You can run a spider in there. That spider can use Creeping Summons, bring back another spider. Now you've got 2 fighters. Your opponent has 1, and because you basically already weighted them out, there's effectively nothing they can do about it. That's mainly what we're going to be going for here. We're going to be taking an extremely large warband we are going to be running into opponent fighters. We're going to be resurrecting the fighters that die. And we're going to be doing that turn on turn to drain all of the activations from your opponent and basically make it so that they can't play the game, essentially, because they are too preoccupied with killing these spiders. If they wanted to disengage, run away, and do other things, that just wastes more actions from them and leaves your spiders free to do stuff. We're going to be running 15 fighters in this warband, capping out the maximum allowed in Warcry. Why is this really good? Because the meta at the moment is geared towards much smaller 7 or 8 man warbands. So you're going to be basically doubling the amount of fighters that they have. What does this mean is that you can play the wait game very well. You can wait with your spiders. Once all of your opponent's fighters have gone, then you get to activate half your warband. And when you get to activate half your warband, that's when you're going to be setting up plays for the next turn. So the way you are going to be killing anything, basically, is waiting your opponent out, surrounding the thing that you want to kill with as many spiders as possible. Then on the next turn, that fighter that you've surrounded is essentially stuck there. He's only going to get to kill 1 or 2 spiders. That's 6 wounds on those spiders. For your basic attack profile, most things in the game don't have the damage to do 6 wounds in one shot, unless we're talking about something really big like an Annihilator Prime. Believe it or not, they're actually a bit more sticky than you would give them credit for, but the idea is there is a cap on the amount of spiders that fighter can conceivably kill, and then once that fighter's finished activating, you can just attack with those spiders until the guy's dead. They have 4 attacks each, so attacking twice at 8 attacks, even on a 1-2 damage profile, wounding on 5s, some of that damage is going to stick, and eventually even the biggest thing is going to go down. Ultimately, if you want a warband that is really good on the weight game and is more of a control style warband, one that doesn't play in the normal kind of realms of what a warband looks like in this meta, I think Tarantulos Brood might be for you. I've likened them very much to the Chaos version of Soulblight Gravelords. They play that game really well, but Tarantulos Brood, what they do is they sacrifice some of the sticking ability of Soulblight Gravelords because they don't have the wounds, they don't have the toughness, they don't have that very good reaction for a whole lot more maneuverability and a whole lot more speed. So that's something that really appeals to me. Other warbands that could totally play like this, I think Hadis of Wanchi can play like this. They got 60-point skinks now with blowpipes. You could basically do the same thing, except you're sitting at 6 inches just throwing blowpipes into your opponent. It's the same damage profile. Yeah, it's bad, but if you're running 15 dudes, it doesn't really matter. You might actually be able to play like this with Nighthaunt. They have a similar kind of tool set. They've got Resurrect, they've got Speed, they've got Nets as well. So that might be something interesting if you build a big enough Nighthaunt warband. They will have the added bonus of having Fly on top of their movement 6. So I think that could be really cool, just like mass chain rasps. That should be fairly effective into this meta. Any kind of big super swarm is just real good in the big smashy meta that we are looking at. Me and Toast actually did a video on that, which I'll put the link up there. Go check it out. We go through a whole bunch of different warbands that might be good into this meta, how to play against it, and what to bring.
Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man!
Because it might not be super clear how to play this list, I'm going to break down all the missions and I'm going to break down all of my opponents, and I'm going to go through a little bit into my thinking about how I was going to tackle the missions themselves and how I was going to tackle the opponents and try and come up with some kind of a plan to put the two together and to win my games. Guys, watch time from subscribers, 47%. What's going on? We're slacking. But to the rest of you, let's go. You can hit that subscribe button, costs you absolutely nothing, and we can continue to make more videos like the one you're watching now. If you want to throw some more support my way, you can join me over on YouTube. You can join me on Patreon. Join me over on Streamlabs. Either way, you get to see new stuff. You get to see stuff before it's released, and you get to have a bit of a say into the kind of stuff I am doing now. But with that being said, let's get back to the video. The first battle that we played was Swamp Raid. It has 4 objectives on the board. You get 1 point for capturing an objective, 1 point for capturing more than your opponent, and 1 point for capturing 2 or more. There is a side quest in this mission where if you capture an objective that your opponent had during that turn, you get an extra 3 points. I was playing against Demetrios. He is a fantastic player. He was playing Blades of Khorne Bloodbound. He had a Resilience Korgorath, so a ton of wounds. He had the Gore Hulk. He had a Slaughter Priest, so he had the Poles. Arnulf and Targor, they recently got pretty hefty points decreases. They are Bladeborn fighters. They're basically the same as Blood Reavers, but with +2 wounds, and a whole bunch of Blood Reavers. So it was a relatively large warband for this kind of format. 8 fighters, number of Khorne, exactly what we're looking for. A lot of punch in the Korgorath and the Gorehulk, and he's got the pulls from the Slaughter Priest. Now, the interesting thing about this mission is that because it's only 4 objectives, I basically have to get in there and I have to start committing my spiders early. Even if he just puts a whole bunch of guys on the objectives, I'm going to have to fight them. I basically have no choice. At the end of the battle, I think I only had 3 guys left. All of my spiders had died, and it was just my 2 Doomweavers and my leader. Going into this mission, you can see that it's only daggers on the field. His dagger happened to be 2 guys, mine happened to be 5 guys because I'm running 15, so all my dagger hammer shield are maxed out. This was real good on my part because it means that in the early game, at least, I can concentrate on getting as many points as possible whilst minimizing my casualties, because it's very unlikely that once I've waited a couple of times, he's going to have anyone left to actually fight me with. I can get objectives and there's maximum 3 points per turn. That was the idea. Turn 1, that worked out. Turn 2, the rest of his warband comes on and the rest of my warband comes on. But by that time, I'm looking at my full 15 activations versus his 8. And effectively what we're doing is we're trying to wait for him to activate all of his fighters. After his fighters have activated, jump onto the objectives and try and capture objectives that he would have had before. I used the Tarantulos Brood summon and the Tarantulos Brood battle trait to really good effect here. Because you can use the battle trait from your spiders, you get to run a spider in, resurrect a guy. It's a 2v1 swap on an objective, and you are able to grab objectives that way and score the extra points. So my whole idea for this game was score points early, dominate turns 1 and 2, try and get maximum points, and then as long as I score at least 1 point on turn 3, there's no way that Demetrios can actually come back and win it because I've already scored maximum points for those 2 turns. That's basically how it ended up. I used a lot of the terrain to my advantage. We had some very tall pieces of terrain and big blocking walls, so I got to use the spider double to be able to climb over things and get exactly where I needed to very quickly. That all worked out, so I'm pretty happy there. If you're ever playing into a low amount of objective missions, use your early game tempo advantage to swarm the board. Unless your leader or any of your 2 Doomweavers are really going to get hit and they're going to die, they're not super tough, so it's likely they will. What you'll be looking to do is placing your spiders just outside of engagement range of your opponents on those objectives. So on the next turn, your opponent has to waste an action already to just go in and to be able to kill 1 spider. It allows you to manage the deaths of your spiders. That's one really big thing if you're playing a really big warband like this, especially a resurrecting warband. Most of the game is you being able to manage how many of your chaff units have died, how many come back, and exactly where you're going to be putting them. Game 2, the battle plan was called a Frantic Search. This one was pretty interesting. The idea is that there are 6 pieces of treasure on the battlefield, and a fighter, they can use up one of their actions, roll a dice. On a roll of a 5 or more, they find that piece of treasure and they start carrying the treasure. If you are elevated more than 2 inches off the battlefield floor, you get +2 to that roll. So if you're on a tree or a building or whatever, you roll your dice. On the 3 or more, you get your treasure. Obviously, spiders being spiders, they can't carry treasure, but they can still dig for it. So what they would be doing is they would be digging for the treasure and spitting out the tokens behind them. This was the game plan I put together. I was playing against a 6-man Seraphon warband, triple Croxigor Warspawn with +1 attack, Kixitaka, Otterpaddle, and Tok. A very small warband, especially compared to the 15 guys that I'm running. Against a more normal 7 or maybe an 8-man warband, would have been very effective. You've got Kixitaka, who's able to give the +1 movement buff to his Croxigor, and those Croxigors basically just walk in and 1-shot or 2-shot anything that they run into. Against a much larger warband where it didn't matter how much damage they had, that power was heavily dampened. My whole plan was to throw spiders at those Croxigors, 1 or 2 spiders every turn, force the Croxigors to engage the spiders. They would be wasting their actions, leaving only the much weaker skinks to go around and get treasure. Now, on top of that, Because I have so many models, what I was able to do was get spiders into positions where they could keep searching turn after turn for that treasure and deny that treasure to my opponent, despite it just sitting on the battlefield. If all of my opponent's fighters are tied up fighting these spiders, all I really need to do is hold one more treasure than the Seraphon player, and I managed to win the game. I had treasure on each of my 3 non-beast fighters. By the end of the game, my opponent managed to get 2 pieces of treasure, but the last piece, I managed to find it with one of my spiders, get it out of the way so that it's just unobtainable for my opponent. If you're playing into treasure missions, that most of the time you're not going to be having to dig for treasure, but what you want to be doing, because you have such a large warband and it's so fast, is engage your opponent's potential treasure carriers, make them waste their time, and have them really get bogged down in the amount of spiders that you have, run disruption with those spiders, use your nets if you have to, and you're generally only going to be winning with 1 or maybe 2 treasures on your fighters. Game 3 was a kill mission, Heavy is the Head. At the beginning of the first battle round, you pick your opponent's fighter with the highest wound characteristic. You get +1 hit and crit against those fighters. Whoever takes out most points worth of fighters during that battle round gets the point, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. I was playing against Jamie's Iron Jaws. You had a brute boss with a chopper, an our boy big boss, 1 each of a Rager and a Wrecker, so something against swarms, something against big things, and then 3 Ard Boys with choppers. This was the new Iron Jaws, so he got to use all of the new Ard Boys with the boosted stats, boosted attack damage, and boosted toughness, and he got to use the Iron Jaws battle trait. This was really the matchup that I was most fearing, because the battle trait turns off all of my weight mechanics. If I choose to wait even once, he gets a free move of one of his fighters. And then on top of that, the basic stats, like overall, that toughness 5 with the 15 wounds means it is very difficult for me to actually kill his fighters. But what we can do in this situation, when we are playing against Iron Jaws, is that we still have a very large warband. You effectively have to waste moves. The idea is that you make it so that the Iron Jaws basically cannot charge you. You have to stay well out of engagement range and kind of dance around them until you have a good opportunity to actually kill something. Now, it kind of sucked in this mission that turn on turn you had to be killing the most points worth of stuff. So I figured that the only way I was really going to be able to win this was to hang back, use my spiders extremely sparingly to slow down people if I needed to. And then on the very last turn, that's when we were going to do all the damage. So what I did is turn 1, basically climbed up all the buildings, tried to keep away from those Iron Jaws as much as possible. Turn 2, similar thing, climb up buildings, run away, get out of position. Turn 3, that's when you start to set up things for turn 4 when you plan to actually do the damage, and you're going to win out of that 1 turn's worth of attacking. At the end of turn 3, I managed to surround his Brute Rager with something like 8 spiders. The idea being all of those spiders attack in the next round. Even if the Rager gets to kill 2 spiders off of its attacks, that's only 100 points, but the Rager's worth 145 points in return. So even if I only go evens there, I managed to win that way. And that's basically what we did. We set up the fight. End of turn 3, that was all done. Turn 4, we go in, we kill the Rager. I got a very lucky quad, which allowed my leader to do a rampage into a basic hard boy, pick up another 100 points, and that's it. When your opponent is basically killing spiders, and each spider is worth 50 points, and you're killing a 100-point hard boy and a 145-point Rager, you're almost at the situation where your opponent's fighters need to kill twice the amount of fighters that you do just to get the same amount of points. So we won on the very last turn, but that's really an example of having to play the mission as opposed to just going, okay, I'm just going to run into my opponent and just have all of my spiders die. The last mission was Supremacy. This mission probably gives me the biggest chance of winning because I'm running a huge warband. It's a 6 objective mission, and I can just swarm the battlefield and I can bring guys back and I can go around and do whatever I want. At the end of each round, you gain 2 points for holding 2 or more objectives, another 2 for holding 3 or more, and another 2 for holding more than your opponent. The battle ends after 4 rounds, and the player with the most victory points is the winner. Now, I was playing against Luke's Machine Gun Slan Seraphon list. We had Clacktrock with Strength, a Slan Starmaster, again with Strength, a Skink Starseer, 3 Warriors with Celestite Clubs. I think he did the best that he could on this one. It was a bit sad for him that his Slan turned up on turn 2. so he didn't get the full impact of it from turn 1 that he would have normally. It's very true that a slam will basically kill 3 spiders a turn, so I was trying to hide, get out the way, keep engaged with things so that the slam basically wouldn't have the opportunity to shoot at me. When you are coming up against a slam, it's very easy to just go, okay, well, the slam can do whatever it wants to me, it can reach out and grab me. But as a more general tactic against that kind of thing, you want to be engaging it with one of your cheap fighters, force the slam to have to attack that cheap fighter, and then at the very least, it wastes one of its shooting actions. The slam does have Cold-Blooded Commander, so if it kills someone, it gets to make a free move or a free attack action. So the idea being, if you can waste one of those attack actions, generally the slam won't be pulling as much weight as it should be, and that's basically what we did. I didn't manage to kill the slam at all, but I did manage to tie it up turn on turn. I used my Baffle trait, again, to do the whole run a spider onto a point, resurrect a spider, go 2 for 1 on that objective. So that really works out. That was really good. I think the star of the show in this particular game was the Scuttling Symbiosis double to get bonus moves and bonus attack actions on my spiders. If you really need to get across the board and to go and get an objective, you can activate either your leader or one of your Doomweavers, use Scuttling Symbiosis, get a free move on a spider, then wait, and then later on in the round, the Doomweaver can activate again, Scuttling Symbiosis again, get another free move, do whatever it's going to do, and then that spider gets to activate move twice. So that's a total of 24 inches worth of movement on that particular spider. Using the Battle trait, you can really reach out and go for those far-reaching objectives and get there quite easily. One thing to note was that I tried to use Resurrect. My leader basically died at the beginning of turn 2. He got punched by the Skink Starter and fell over and died. So I was basically running with just the one Resurrect in this game off of the Battle trait. But that seemed to work out. I had just enough guys that I could tie up enemy pieces easily enough and kind of dance around them in that way. So that's how we won that mission. I was saying to my opponent that what he could have done to try and increase his chances of winning that was basically just park a Saurus onto each objective, park his slam and his skink onto another one, and force me to come to him in very much the same way as the first mission we played. When you force me to engage, the spiders will totally die, so eventually I'll just run out of guys. And I kind of did. By the end of the game, I had, I think, 1 spider and 1 of my Doomweavers left. It was a very bloody game, but I managed to score, again, a lot of points really early. I think I scored maximum points turn 1, max points turn 2, and then all I really needed to do was on turns 3 and 4, just get 2 points, and so I would win the game overall. So you'll see that as a trend if you're playing a warband like this. You're very much front-loaded in the game, so you want to score as many points as possible and try and secure the game before turn 3, because once turn 3 hits and you've lost a whole bunch of spiders, a lot of your advantage is gone, and you're going to have real problems.
Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man.